Hi, my name is Sydney and welcome to my January TBR reading vlog. My December TBR reading vlog did not go well, but the previous 11 went fantastically. I'm really loving my 5 category system for my monthly TBRs, and I absolutely intend to continue them into 2026. If you saw my goals video, then you would know that the 2026 monthly TBRs are working a little bit differently, and if you saw my January TBR picking video, you'd see the books that we're going to go through today. But as a little recap, these are the books we're going to be reading in today's video. We're reading Becoming by Michelle Obama for MLK Jr. Day, because it's pretty much the only Heritage Day or Identity Recognition Day in January, and so I'm just using it as an excuse to read some more Black authors on my shelves. For my Read the World challenge, January, I picked out randomly Lebanon, and the book that I decided to go for it was The True Story of Rabih the Gullible. And I have it on hold at my library, and I was like 4th in line when I put it on hold all these weeks ago, and I still don't have it yet. So hopefully by the time I finish the other 4 books, hopefully this one will become available to me. I've never heard of this book, but yeah, there seems to be a long line for it, so hopefully I get that one soon. For my priority TBR, we're picking up the Ornithologist Field Guide to Love. I've been wanting to read this series for so long, and I think the 3rd book is coming out relatively soon, so I'm really excited for this one. For Finish a Series, because we upped it from Continue a Series to Finish a Series for 2026, we are finishing out the 3rd book in the Scholomance trilogy by Naomi and Novik. And lastly, for picking books off my physical TBR, we are now using a wheel spinner to first pick the genre, and then using a genre wheel spinner to pick out individual books. And I'm already cheating a little bit because for January we picked historical romance, and I have a ton of other books I can read, but I really want to continue the historical romance author that I'm reading their entire backlist from, which is Sabrina Jeffries. And I started a series, so I have 4 books left in the current series I'm in, but I only own 2 of them, and the 2nd book in the series I don't own. And so if I continued that series, it wouldn't work for this category. So unfortunately, I mean, obviously my goal is to finish that series, but that means 4 books, so we'll see how far we get in this reading vlog. I mean, honestly, might just keep reading them until we get my whole library for my Lebanon book. So this is what we'll be reading in today's reading vlog. It is a really good mix of genres. And today we will be starting the Golden Enclaves because my audiobook for it expires in 4 days. And if you've seen me talk about the other 2 books in the series, you know that I really need that audiobook because this whole thing is a stream of consciousness, kind of rambling in which you don't always know what's going on. It's just info dump, something exciting, info dump, something emotional, info dump. And so you really need to read this book quickly. It is one of the most unique fantasy series I have ever read, but I don't really know if I'm going to recommend it to people or not. It really depends on how this 3rd book goes. So it's not super long. I think the audiobook's like 14 hours long. So we are gonna go and walk in the gym for a little while and do as many tasks today as I can while listening to the audiobook, because I think this book needs to be finished in 24 hours for me to like survive it, honestly. So I don't own the 1st book, and I own the paperback of the 2nd book, and now I'm looking at the hardback for the 3rd book, and oh my god, it's a map to the school. This thing is so confusing. I wish I had this for all 3 books. This would have been so nice. There's even like handwritten notes on the side. Holy crap. And then the back, I don't even know. The Enclave planning report. Oh my, this would have been so nice to have. Wow. I'm telling you, this series just throws you into the deep end. I don't know what happened. I don't think I've ever cried this much over a book, like, in my life. I in the past 4 years, I've had like maybe a single tear go down my face like once or twice, but this was like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm close to my period. Maybe I needed a good cry. I don't know. All I know is that I told myself that I needed to read this book within 24 hours so that it wouldn't drag me down with it, because this one, exactly the same as the other 2, was just stream of consciousness info dumping. Like, I'm just established at this point, and there were times I zoned out, you know, there were times where I was like, all of this could have been cut, whatever. But I walked in the gym for a long time, and I paused the book so I can shower, and then I put the book back in, because I was listening to it while reading it, to eat lunch, and then I came up here and I just sat there in that chair and I just finished it in one sitting. And I needed to get it done. I don't know why, I just felt the need to finish it. And out of nowhere, it just suddenly hit me how attached I was to these characters and the well-being of this world and this magic system and like their future. And I realized that when people like, when revelations started happening and like people's lives were really on the line, and oh my god, I'm gonna cry even thinking about it. I didn't realize how attached I was until everything kind of went really, really bad. And wow, the ending fits perfectly, but it still makes me so sad. But it's good. It's a good sad. I don't know. It's good, but I'm still sad about it. I can't even, like, in good consciousness suggest this book to anyone, really. Because the reading experience was so difficult. Like, it was just so difficult. So, like, why... out of any of the books I've read in the past 5 years, why is this the one that made me cry? Why? I don't understand. I don't understand. So unfortunately, that does mean I will be keeping both of these books and looking for the first book somewhere so I can have them on my shelves. Because I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna want to reread these, which is what I didn't want to happen. I did not want to reread these books because it was so difficult. But now that I know and I understand what had been set up for us, the whole 3 books, you don't get it until towards the end of this, where you finally understand what has been happening throughout all 3 books. And now that I know, I'm like, dang it, I do need to reread these, but I think I need a lot of time away. Because these were so hard to read. I think this book just also was exactly what I needed after my December TBR, something that I finished in one day and that like really got to me. I needed it. The series is just so different. It's so clever. It's like there were times I was laughing out loud. I just wish it wasn't written the way it was. It's gonna sound shocking, but like even though like I was literally sobbing, this is not a 5-star book for me because it was still so difficult to read. Like it's definitely like maybe a 4.25, honestly. Like I don't like how the fact that a book made me cry, it should be like on my god tier list. It should be my 6 stars infinity stars, but it's not because this was such a difficult reading experience. I'm so torn. So I don't know how she did it, but Naomi Novik has done it again. I've now read 5 of her works, this trilogy and then Spinning Silver and Uprooted, and I'd love to reread Spinning Silver and Uprooted because it's been 4 years. I'd like to reread those, I have them, and then I'd love to read her other series. I know it's like a super long dragon series. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only 9 books long. That's fine. What a start. What a start. And I wish I had actually read this in January. I'm in fact starting this reading vlog in February. This would have been a great way to start out the year. We are now up to the rest of these books and my loan still has not come in yet, which means I will be choosing between these 2 physical books or a digital book so I can continue with Sabrina Jeffries. We'll see what I do. I think I'm gonna take the rest of the night off and just recover from crying. I don't do that very often. I think I need it. So I will see you tomorrow. Today I decided to pick up Becoming because I also have the audiobook for this and it also expires in 3 days. So I wanted to get at least a head start on it. And I was really hoping this would be the case, but when I started the audiobook, it said read by the author. And I was like, yes! So having Michelle Obama's voice in my ear has made this so much better, and yet I'm really happy that I have the physical copy because in the center there are photos that just obviously put a face to the names that she's talking about. And I was maybe a little bit into part 2. Part 1 is called Becoming Me. Part 2 is called Becoming Us. I surprised myself by crying again in this book. I don't know, I must be about to get my period. But at the same time, part of these stories started really hitting me hard. I have never learned so much about someone so quickly. This book is written so well. So well. I don't understand how she remembers so much of her childhood into her thoughts, feelings, emotions as she's growing up. She's only at this point, I think she just had her 32nd birthday, and yet I feel like she's already lived 10 different lives. I knew they both had very prolific careers before becoming president and first lady, but I didn't realize just how much they did beforehand. And I'm not even there yet. I'm not even at the presidency yet, and they've already done so many things. Obviously, by going through this book, I'm learning a lot about their families, so many things I didn't know, about their connections to the world and other people. I was right to pick this for MLK Jr. Identity Recognition Day because she's like 3 or 4 steps removed from him, and they even gets mentioned in here. Sometimes with autobiographies and memoirs and other nonfiction books, I find myself kind of nodding off or, you know, zoning out for a little bit or wanting to put it down, but I have not pressed stop on this, and I'm 45% of the way in, which is really, look, I'm 8.5 hours into this book right now and I haven't stopped. That's something that I really have not really experienced in a memoir like this, and especially like a pretty hefty one. I'm not normally somebody who's super into the lives of like famous people, and yet I find myself seriously intrigued with Michelle Obama's life story and how she became the woman who she is today. And this book was published in 2018, I believe, and so obviously we're gonna get all the way up and through the presidency, and I am really excited about that. I knew I would like this book, but I didn't realize how much I would love it and how much, yes, it pulls on your heartstrings for some of the things that she went through, but also like how relatable a lot of her thoughts are as she's growing up and, you know, the experiences she's going through. And obviously there were 2 deaths in here towards the early beginning of her life, her young adult life, that just hit me really, really hard. And yeah, I cried again. I wasn't expecting to get through so much of this book. I think I might be done with it for tonight though. I have a little bit of editing I need to get through, and I might pick up a Sabrina Jeffries book tonight just so that like I can take my headphones off because I'm starting to be in a little bit of pain from wearing them for so long. But I genuinely think I will finish this book, if not tomorrow, then the next day. Over dinner and doing some editing, I listened to the rest of Becoming. I ended up mostly listening to it instead of reading it on the page because it is Michelle Obama's voice in your ear, and I loved hearing her narrate. I really loved this book. It was such a wonderful glimpse into her life, her extraordinary circumstances that were really extraordinary in the fact that they're so ordinary beginnings. I loved in the whole second half of the book the behind the scenes glimpse we get into the presidency, what it's like to live in the White House and have kids that are trying to be normal and figuring out that you have a voice and, you know, you can put actual momentum into the causes that you are passionate about. I was only 9 when Obama was elected. I turned 10 like a couple of days afterwards. And so I really don't remember much about this time period, but he was president my entire middle and high school career, and I was a freshman in college and was able to vote for the first time for the next term afterwards. And so towards the end, as Michelle was talking about, you know, doing the last this, doing the last that, having to say goodbye to their full-time White House staff and having to be ready to usher in a new era of the next president, I feel like I was in mourning all over again and hearing the behind the scenes of what it was like to have Trump elected for the first time and like the complete disbelief that was going on behind the scenes, and it hurts all over again. And even though it does, and she recognizes that, she also talks about how some progresses can't be erased even though they're doing their freaking best to try. Some things cannot be erased, and we have to continue to be hopeful and keep moving forward and keep becoming the next iteration, the next best part of you, the next best part about this world. And as it finished, I was just having such a lovely time looking at the photos that are in this book. And I'm so happy I was able to listen to this, but having it in my hands and being able to see these photos really added that extra layer of meaning. And so to that end, I am going to unhaul this. Even though like this is one of the best autobiographies I've ever read, I am going to unhaul it in hopes that this finds somebody else who needs it, because I find it unlikely that I will reread this, and I think right now is a really good time for somebody else to get some hope. But yeah, what a phenomenal read. So 2 down on this TBR, 3 to go. I wish it was these 3, but it's not. I still don't have my Read the World book yet, even though it's been like 2 days since I started this vlog, which means my next options that I have currently available are the Ornithologist Field Guide to Love, or I can start a Sabrina Jeffries book. I did start a super short Kindle read last night for my book club, so I'll probably finish that up tonight or tomorrow and then get started on one of these tomorrow. All right, I'm going up to my mom's for a few days and I'm going to bring both of these Sabrina Jeffries books I have. The goal, it's not going to happen, but the goal is that I will finish this series while I'm up there. So these 2 books plus the 2 I have to get on my Kindle, and then hopefully by the time I come back, I will have finished these. It's unlikely, I'm gonna say it's very unlikely, but I'm gonna try it anyway. And hopefully by the time I come back, my audio book for this book and my Kindle loan for my Read the World Challenge book will be here. And that way when I come back, I can finish this out. We will see though. I don't know exactly how I did it, but I did it. I finished out the rest of the series. There are 5 books in this series in total, with one of them being a novella. I read the first book, What the Duke Desires, last September, and this week I read the other 3 novels and the novella. I thought I remembered the plot of the first book well enough, but when I got into the second book, I realized that no, I did not. There were too many characters, and their storylines, usually in these kind of Regency romances, they're a little bit convoluted and complicated, but not enough that you can't remember. But these ones are particularly complicated. They had a lot of history that were important to their everydays, and I was reading it, I was like, oh my goodness, I was trying to remember everything. So it took me a little while, but even still, the second book was so much fun. I actually gave this 4 stars. I loved this book. This one follows the recently found but long lost half-brother to a duke. Again, it's very complicated, but he 10 years ago had a wife, and through very dramatic circumstances they were separated and they both hated each other, and he's been trying to track her down ever since, and they both think that they are jewel thieves. It's complicated, and so now 10 years later they run back into each other, and things are crazy. This book was dramatic. These 2 were so angry at each other, but then like over time realized that they had both been duped. And so them coming back together and becoming a family and like solving the case and getting justice was so much fun. I flew through this book and I was like, okay, now that I understand everyone, I'm just gonna keep going. So then 2.5 is a novella about a side character, and this one was less than fine. Because even in these full-length novels, like these kind of novels, sometimes the characters still feel kind of flat, and so when it's in a novella, like they are just the most two-dimensional characters you've ever seen, and you know, their problems are very two-dimensional and they get wrapped up very quickly. And so even though I liked both characters, I didn't like how short the story was and how like simple they were, so I did not like Dorinda the Doctor very much. And then I read How the Scoundrel Seduces, and I also gave this one 4 stars. This is kind of unheard of. This one follows the illegitimate half-brother to a viscount, and he has had a crazy life. The series follows the men of a like agency that runs people down, like the Bow Street Runners. So they find people and they solve mysteries and whatnot. So he's one of them. And in the second book, they end up owing a favor to a lady. So now the third book, the lady comes back and she's like, yeah, time to pay up. I need you to find my birth parents. And they're like, huh, you're a lady. We know who your parents are. And she goes, no, actually, I think they might be Romani. And so there is a crazy mystery of them going around large parts of England trying to find her birth family. And there are mysteries, there are people trying to kill each other in here. Like, this one was crazy. I really appreciated in the back, Sabrina Jeffries, she had a note about the Romani in the back saying, as for the Romani, it's difficult to research them in our period because many of the sources from that time are biased against them. But I did find a few that seem even-handed, and there is some recent material on the web written by the Romani themselves. The term gypsy, while used a great deal during the Regency, wasn't what the Rom called themselves even then. It's misleading because it tries to encompass the Romani, Scottish travellers, Irish travellers, Tinkers, and a number of other British nomadic groups, all of which are culturally and ethnically different. And yes, the Romani did often take houses for the winter. Given the vagaries of English winters, that's no surprise. So I appreciate that it's very clear that she researched in here, and I thought she handled it with care. I was really nervous going into this book, knowing that they were going to be dealing with the Romani and gypsies and, you know, all of this, and I was like, I'm a little worried, but I think it ended up being really, really good. And I loved these two together. They were so much fun. Which led into the fourth and final book. This is the legitimate second brother of the Viscount, and he is the head of this agency that he's created. And I've been so looking forward to his story because obviously he's a key player and I really enjoyed him. He's like the super serious, takes care of everything older brother who's in charge of everything. And I'm like, I want him to find happiness in love. Like, I want him to be happy. And so this ended up being a second chance romance with the fiance that he had 10 years ago before everything went to shit. And he had to kind of scheme against her to break things off. And so this is them, I think actually 13 years later, of everyone else is happy now and the rest of his friends and family are like trying to get them back together. And they end up being thrown back together because convoluted sense of story, but her cousin is missing, and so now they all need to go and look after her because he's kind of under her care. It's the whole thing. And so although I was really looking forward to this book, I ended up hating them. I hated this book. I loved the female main character here, but I hated that she waited 13 years for him, even though they had only known each other a couple of weeks and they were in love when they were youths. And I ended up kind of hating Dom by the end of this, the main guy in here, because he was so controlling. And there were even times in here where from her point of view, she was like, I don't know if I'm getting the kind, sensitive Dom that I fell in love with, or like the domineering Dom that tells me what to do and like it's his way or the highway kind of thing. And she was like, I don't know which one I'm getting. And you know, she's like hoping for the nice one, but the whole time I was like, girl, you're getting both. He's going to relapse into this domineering Dom. Like it's just how he is. Like you can't have one of them. And so I kind of found myself rooting against them. I wanted her to go find happiness elsewhere. I think she deserved better because she is a really cool character. But yeah, a little weak that she just waited so long for him and kind of let him walk all over her. And I was like, my guy. That ends that series. Quite happy with that. And I looked into the following series because each group of series are all interconnected. So I looked into the next series and it follows one of the side characters in one of these books. So I'm like, crap, I kind of need to read the next series sooner rather than later. So we are officially back in it, folks. Which means for the TBR, I do have my priority read to go and my Read the World Challenge book to go. And I got the email this morning. My Read the World Challenge book is ready for me to pick up at the library. When I go tonight, I'm going to pick it up. I am so excited, which means today I'm going to watch all my YouTube videos for it so that I can start the book either tonight or tomorrow. And then after that, all we have left is my priority TBR book. We are looking good, folks. I read 50 pages last night and I read another 50 pages just now of the true story of Raja the Gullible. And this is a book unlike, I think, every other book that I've ever read. I think the closest comparison I can think of is the Granada book, in which it's continuously like somebody's telling you stories, but they get distracted by another story, and so they go back in time and they tell you that whole story, and then you continue the story a little bit, but then you have to have another entire story to add more context. It's like that. We're going back and forth through time and learning more about the political events that are happening in Lebanon, and also the personal histories of this person, but it's told in a way that, once again, it feels like it's a real person telling me their story, but I'm like 85% certain this person doesn't exist. We're following the tale of a man who at some point in this book is in his 60s and his mother is in her 80s, and through circumstances they end up living together in Beirut. And they have a really interesting relationship in which they live together, just the two of them, and his mother like controls everything. She is the most social butterfly person out there, and she is always bored, and he just wants to be left alone. He just wants to go to school, teach his brats, as he calls them, and then go home and like read in peace, and she's not having any of it. They have these continuous arguments in which they just call each other stupid all the time. There'll be things where he's like, no, I don't want to do that, and she goes, oh, don't worry, he'll do it, and then he does it. It's like, okay. So far we've learned a bit about the Lebanese civil war. We've learned a little bit about the Israeli occupation. We've learned about how there's like a diesel mafia, and he keeps hinting that there's also an explosion that's about to happen. The point that I stopped at, again, we're jumping back and forth through time. So part 1 is 2023, part 2 is 2001 to 2021, and it covers the banking collapse and COVID pandemic. And now I just got to part 3, which is 1960 to 1975, the pre-Civil War. So we're kind of jumping back and forth in time. I really struggle with this kind of writing style in which it's just like somebody talking to you the whole time. Sometimes I find myself like completely immersed in the story, and I'm like, yeah, what happens next? What happens next? Like there's a lot that's happening in this book, but then sometimes I'm just like bored, which I feel really bad about. But I also find myself like pretty uncomfortable about he and his relationship to his mom. It's kind of a sore subject for me right now, and I'm seeing a lot of similarities, and yeah, it's not pleasurable for me at this moment in time. But this book is really just over 300 pages, so I'm about a third of the way through. I'm hoping that if I keep sitting down and like reading it apart at a time, that it will be done. But this morning, my hold for my audiobook for my last book of this reading vlog finally came in. And so once I finish with the true story of Rabih the Gullible, I will immersive read this. And I think this is going to go by really, really quickly. The problem is today's currently Friday, and I am leaving my apartment again on Tuesday. So I'm really hoping that I can finish Rabih the Gullible either today or tomorrow, and then I can spend Sunday, Monday finishing this book. That's the goal. Let's see if we can do it. This book is not boring anymore. Part 3 was very short. It was about 20 pages. So I was like, okay, it's not that late. I'll just start part 4 and get a little bit into it. But that was a very traumatic and stressful situation that lasted a very long time, and I could not stop reading until I finished that section, and now it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're now up to part 5, the port explosion. I'm now really, really, really hoping this isn't autobiographical. I'm gonna have to do some research. I've got like 110 pages left. Let's finish it out. I'm on page 287, and this is straight up gonna turn into a thriller. Oh, fuck. What the fuck? She said that if I forgive him, my life will open like a flower. A culture that serves and protects the perpetrators of crimes will always try to convince its victims that they will feel better if they forgive and move on. What was traumatic was returning to this reality. I ascended from the underworld into a world, into a culture that would do everything in its power, everything in its considerable power to crush me. Being with him in the garage allowed me to set the boulder aside for a moment. I had to pick it back up when I emerged, and it doubled in size because, oh my god, I wore a dress. I don't blame him for that. It's not him, it's not me, it's this world we live in. I went back and I reread the about of the book, and then I went back and reread the first section, which is only like 10 pages long, and this book describes itself as a tragicomic, and that is completely correct. It's a tragicomic love story set in Lebanon, a modern saga of family, memory, and the unbreakable attachment of a son and his mother. I know I said earlier that the attachment between the son and mother was really weird. To me, their relationship was just something that I could not fathom or understand. But having finished the story and having it go full circle, it makes sense to me. not in a way that is even remotely applicable to my own life or relationships, but in a way that it makes sense for this story and this world. I was really constantly asking myself why this man was allowing his mother to be such a dictator in his own life, and why he constantly put up with her. And really, I was still questioning that until we got to the end of that really insane section that I spent all night reading last night. That's when I started to begin to understand, and then I really understood in the final section when everything kind of came full circle. And I didn't cry, but I certainly felt like I could in that final section, both because that section really brought the ideas, morals, bigger picture of this book together, but also that's what I felt was applicable in my current life and current circumstances, and I didn't like that. There is one section in here that technically takes place in Virginia, and it actually takes place about an hour from where I live. And so him talking about visiting this place was kind of hilarious to me, and now I'm questioning about whether he's a local author because he seems to know the Charlottesville region quite well. He was born in Amman. He grew up in Kuwait and Lebanon, and then moved to England at 17 and then to California to pursue higher education. In 2018, he was teaching at the University of Virginia's Creative Writer program in Charlottesville. That's why he knows Charlottesville. Oh, and this was published in 2025. I didn't realize it was so recent. And he won the National Book Award for this book. His bio says he divides his time between his bedroom and his living room. Okay, well that makes sense as to why this waitlist for this book was so long. September 2025. Yeah, this is recent. I mean, the writing itself, like I said, it took a little bit of getting used to because we jump back and forth in time a lot and we feel like we're going down a lot of tangents, but they're entertaining tangents and they're just so creatively written. The voice of the main character comes through so fiercely, and thankfully, just looking at his book, I don't think this is autobiographical, although the author is gay. Does say that on his website. This book was something, and I feel like it's something that I will remember for a very long time. There are a lot of really traumatic things that happen in this book though, so I can't blanketly recommend it, but I feel like it does give a really important narrative to the Lebanese and how many tragedies they went through, the queer experience in a country that is not happy with your existence, and the bonds of family that are very strong, very strong. And I am quite happy that I had already watched the Lebanese YouTube videos because him walking around Beirut, I was able to mentally picture in my head, and I really appreciated that. Which means the very last book that we have to read for this video is The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love, and I am going to go down to make myself some lunch, and I'm going to, actually I'm probably going to start immersive reading this right now, and just so I get a feel for the world, and then I'm probably gonna make some lunch and continue reading this, and hopefully between today and tomorrow I will be able to finish. I won't lie, I almost immediately DNF'd this book because this is a story about magical ornithologists, or an ornithologist from magical birds. But it turns out all of them are just capturing these magical birds instead of just studying them in the wild, even though they're all very endangered. So I really did not like the idea of them just capturing these birds, because they even say it at one point that they all are keeping eyes on each other because you never know who is going to sell these magical birds to like private collectors or on the black market. Like they have to keep in contact with each other and like follow them around to make sure that they end up in good zoos and stuff like that. And so I really didn't like that idea, and that's told to us pretty much immediately. And then on page like 3, the female main character is out in Spain trying to track down this bird with her, I wouldn't call her a mentor, but the person that she's working with kind of, and the older lady has like a glass in her hand and she like throws it to the side because she's, you know, looking for this other bird, and there's this throwaway line that the glass she had thrown accidentally killed another bird that was right there, but this bird is the last one on the continent. But then it goes on to say like, oh, if they had captured it, it would have been 3 3,000 pounds. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that. And we immediately get the sense that our female main character is a total pushover when it comes to this lady. So I was like, am I even gonna like this book? Like, I'm not sure. But I decided to go down and eat my lunch and read throughout lunch and then decide afterwards. And I am so happy that I pushed through, because this book really is hilarious and so unique and magical and really well done, that once you get over the fact that these ornithologists are really just out there capturing these birds, this story really is a delight. You genuinely do not know what's going to happen next, whether just situationally in the moment or what these characters are going to say or what the narration like says. I'm gonna read you 2 quotes so far, and they're so funny. This is the beginning of chapter 3. All along the streets of the museum, Beth met no trouble. Her plain brown coat, accompanied by a small hat, gloves, and air of cultivated intelligence, triggered fear in any man who glanced her way. One catcall and she might educate them. Like, and then her rival is her love interest here, and here she's thinking about him. His name is Devon. Devon might be guiltless in this matter, but she did not like the man, nor respect him, nor desire in the slightest to slide her hand through his wayward black hair. He was a bird-stealing fiend, never mind his various charms. They were fiends too, the whole lot of them, and she was a mature, sensible woman, despite the evidence of this paragraph. And then we have like just such out-of-pocket things. Men had always been vague shapes at the edge of her awareness, rambling on about sports or telling her how to do something she'd mastered in adolescence. The exception was Professor Gladstone, Beth's head of department and former mentor. An octogenarian who smelled of pipe smoke and slightly damp tweed, he had eyes permanently narrowed from too much peering through binoculars, and no small finger on his left hand after it was bitten off in the wilds of Colombia by a feral undergraduate suffering from coffee withdrawals. Like, this book is just never going where you think it's going, and it has genuinely made me laugh out loud so many times. I read through lunch and then came back up here and kept reading, even though I told myself I was gonna go to work, because I was genuinely just having such a good time. I really love these 2 love interests together. They are so funny together. Our male love interest immediately falls for her, like upon first sight, and so now when we get brief glimpses into his point of view, and he's just like so gone for her, but he's trying to deny it, but at the same time he's like, oh, who am I kidding? Like, it's genuinely so good. He's yearning for her in the moment. There's also this sometimes we get small POVs from these side characters that are urging the romance along because they want to I shouldn't give that away. It's actually so funny. Anyway, we get some really hilarious side points that are very aware of what relationship they're cultivating between the 2 main characters, and it is genuinely a delight. I had made it up till chapter 5 through lunch, and now I've made it up until chapter 10. So I'm about a third of the way through now, and genuinely, I could just sit here and binge the entire thing. Like, that's how fun this book is. I think I'll give my eyes a bit of a break though and go do some work, and then I am coming back to this. Like, I am feeling the draw. I was up last night until well past I should have been, and I just spent the last hour and a half finishing out this book, and wow. Honestly, wow, this is a 4.5 star for me, maybe even a 4.75. I loved this book. It leans so hard into the silliness that makes it genuinely hilarious and not to the point where it's cringy. The world itself is so incredibly amazing. It's Victorian England and Europe, but with the inclusion of magical birds and magical nature. It turns out that these ornithologists kind of have to capture these birds because they like wreak havoc upon humans. We get introduced to birds that breathe flames and destroy railroad tracks. We get introduced to birds that breathe ice, and apparently if it breathes ice on a person, it will explode them. We meet birds that have razor sharp teeth and actively hunt humans. There are birds that their singing or their whooping actively causes like your eardrums to explode and blood to like drain from your eyeballs. So like, these birds are wildly dangerous, and so my initial reservation of the ornithologist in the beginning, wanting to capture them, immediately was gone once I started meeting these birds and being like, oh, okay, I understand now. I adore smart people in books, and I adore smart people falling in love with other smart people, especially when they repeatedly display their intelligence. One of my favorite things to find in books is intellectual chemistry, and that is when two smart people fall in love. And oh my god, this book was that. Beth repeatedly uses her niceties to bend everyone else to her will. She never there's multiple times in here she's like, why people? That's it. That's the end of the sentence. I'm like, that's oh my god, I love her. I love her. She calls herself an introvert that does not know how to deal with people, and yet time and time again she just wraps them around her finger, either because they're just such in awe of her or because she just plays right into the niceties that she is expected of in Victorian England. She uses her politeness as a weapon, which is so well done. And Devin is a rogue, a self-proclaimed rogue, and he uses guns as his weapon and his like roguish smile. He's also equally intelligent and antisocial, but he, again, with his guns and his charming smile, is able to also bend people to his will. And so them together, in which they are constantly like smiling and outsmarting each other and trying to one-up each other until they decide to work together, is just, oh my goodness, I adore their relationship. We get both their points of view, and within both of them, they're just like, wow, I could talk to birds with you forever. And it's like, oh, you know, there they go talking about, you know, this bird, and like, you know, you see the passion in their eyes, and we're watching them fall in love. And oh my goodness, the way that India Holton just wrote them falling in love, it's so, I don't have the words to describe how warm this made my heart. And because it's Victorian England, they're going around and they're like holding hands, and there's children on the street being like, they're holding hands, are they going to get married? Oh my god, the general populace's investment in their marriage, genuinely hilarious. Beth is constantly running into propriety issues, and Devin helps her kind of break down those walls. I read a lot of Regency romance, and so seeing the clothing, the social normities in this book is familiar and fun for me. And so in the classic way that these Regency romance books kind of break against these rules, and it happens in here, I was just like, yes! I was like cheering for it so hard. I genuinely wasn't expecting a sex scene in here. It's written in India Holton's writing, so it's not like super graphic. I wouldn't call it smutty, I would just call it a sex scene. But I was just like, I was cheering for them so hard. And right before they have the sex scene, Devin says, hey, I got bitten by this bird in America, and I can't have kids. And he's being vulnerable about telling her because in his past, a lot of women have walked away from him when he's told them that, and she immediately goes, oh good, I don't want kids, it would ruin my teaching schedule. As somebody who doesn't want kids, every time I run across characters who also don't want kids and explicitly say it, I feel so seen. I feel so represented. Genuinely, the only things that stopped this from being a 5-star were those things in the first scene that had me pretty apprehensive about the tale as a whole. I didn't like that our main lady accidentally killed a bird in the beginning, even though it really showed her character. I just wish it hadn't happened. And I wish it had been made a little bit more clear from the beginning that these birds are kind of dangerous, and that's why they're capturing them and putting them in safe places. I mean, I should have known on the back they're talking about a death whistler, but like, I was so worried about it in the beginning. Otherwise, I normally hate insta-love, and this all takes place in about a week, and they are in love by the end. I normally hate that, but for this book in particular, they spent so much time together and they went through so much, and they're just so absolutely perfect for each other that I'm all for it. Yeah, genuinely incredible. And I'm so excited because the third book in the series comes out in April, which means between now and then, first of all, I freaking love these covers, and I wish I had the other two, but I got this in England, which means I want the other two books to also be from England, so they're the same size, which means I will most likely find the two of them on Kindle. I already looked, my library has them on Kindle. I will most likely check them out on there and listen to the audiobooks, because honestly, this narrator again added so much depth to the book itself. I don't think I could just do one or the other. I think it needs to be an immersive read. But wow, what a way to end this reading vlog. But I think this was a really great batch of books to read, and surprise, today's actually March 1st. So we're a little bit behind on the monthly TBRs, but it's okay because I'm going to read the books. It doesn't, you know, time's the construct, it doesn't matter. Even if it grates on me constantly, it's fine. Today I'm going to start the February TBR. There's some really good books on that list, and hopefully by the end of March I will also get to my March TBR. But you know what? We'll see. I've been reading a crazy amount of books, and it just it feels so good. After that disastrous December TBR. Flashbacks. Yeah, we're looking much better here in 2026. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end here, and I will see you in the next video.